The John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University is a public policy and public administration school of Harvard University in Cambridge, Massachusetts, United States. The school offers master's degrees in public policy, public administration, and international development, grants several doctoral degrees, and many executive education programs. It conducts research in subjects relating to politics, government, international affairs, and economics. The school's primary campus is located on John F. Kennedy Street in Cambridge, Massachusetts, United States. The main buildings overlook the Charles River, southwest of Harvard Yard and Harvard Square, on the site of a former MBTA Red Line train yard. The school is adjacent to the public riverfront John F. Kennedy Memorial Park. In 2015, Douglas Elmendorf, the former director of the U.S. Congressional Budget Office who had previously served as a Harvard faculty member, was named Dean of the Harvard Kennedy School, and Don K. Price Professor of Public Policy. From 2004 to 2015, the school's dean was David Ellwood, who was also the Scott M. Black Professor of Political Economy at Hks. Previously, Ellwood was an assistant secretary in the Department of Health and Human Services in the Clinton administration. History. Graduate School of Public Administration. Harvard Kennedy School was originally the Harvard Graduate School of Public Administration, and was founded in 1936 with a $2 million gift from Lucius N. Littauer, a graduate of Harvard College. Its shield was designed to express the national purpose of the school and was modeled after the U.S. shield. The school drew its initial faculty from Harvard's existing government and economics departments, and welcomed its first students in 1937. The school's original home was in the Littauer Center north of Harvard Yard, now the home of the Harvard Faculty of Arts and Sciences Economics Department. The first students at the graduate school were so-called Littauer Fellows, participating in a one-year course listing which later developed into the school's mid-career Master in Public Administration program. In the 1960s, the school began to develop today's public policy degree and course curriculum in the Master in Public Policy program. Renaming and move in 1966, the school was renamed for President John F. Kennedy. By 1978, the faculty, notably presidential scholar and advisor Richard Neustadt, foreign policy scholar and later dean of the school Graham Allison, Richard Zeckhauser, and Edith Stokey, had orchestrated the consolidation of the school's programs and research centers in the present campus. Under the terms of Littauer's original grant, the current Hks campus also features a building called Littauer. In addition to playing a critical role in the development of the school's modern era, Neustadt, who at the time served as the assistant dean, was also the founding director of the Harvard Institute of Politics, created in 1966 in honor of President Kennedy. The IOP has been housed on the Kennedy School campus since 1978, and today the institute puts on a series of programs, speeches and study groups for Harvard undergraduates and graduate students. The John F. Kennedy, Jr. Forum in the new Littauer building is both the site of IOP Forum events as well as a major social gathering place between Hks courses, academics, degrees. Currently, Harvard Kennedy School offers 4 master's degree programs. The Master of Public Policy program focuses on policy analysis, economics, management in the public sector, and policy design. There are also 3 separate Master in Public Administration programs, a one-year mid-career program, intended for professionals more than 7 years after college graduation. A 2-year MPA program intended for professionals that have an additional graduate degree and are more recently out of school, and a 2-year international development track focused on development studies with a strong emphasis on economics and quantitative analysis. Among the members of the mid-career MPA class of the Mason Fellows, who are public and private executives from developing countries, Mason Fellows typically constitute about 50% of the incoming class of mid-career MPA candidates. In addition to the master's programs, HKS also administers 4 doctoral programs. PhD degrees are awarded in political economy and government, public policy, and social policy, in conjunction with the departments of government and sociology in the Faculty of Arts and Sciences, as well as in health policy, in conjunction with FAS and the Harvard School of Public Health. Joint and concurrent degrees. The Harvard-Kennedy School has a number of joint and concurrent degree programs within Harvard and with other leading universities, which allow students to receive multiple degrees in a reduced period of time. Joint and concurrent students spend at least 1 year in residence in Cambridge taking Hks courses. At Harvard, Hks joint degree programs are run with Harvard Business School and Harvard Law School, and concurrent programs are offered with Harvard Divinity School and Harvard Medical School. Beyond Harvard, Hks has concurrent degree arrangements with other law, business, and medical schools. These include MIT Sloan School of Management, Stanford Business School, Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth College, the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania, Columbia Law School, Duke University School of Law, Georgetown University Law Center, New York University School of Law, Northwestern University School of Law, Stanford Law School, University of California, Berkeley School of Law, University of Michigan Law School, University of Pennsylvania Law School, Yale Law School, and UCSF Medical Center. Abroad, Hks offers a dual degree with the Graduate Institute of International and Development Studies in Geneva. Hks Courses. Hks courses are organized across 6 areas, called a policy area of concentration, on which they focus their coursework, take a year-long research seminar in the 2nd year, and prepare a master's thesis, called a policy analysis exercise. The school divides the school and Hks course listing into 6 areas, each headed by a faculty area chair. The areas and chairs for Hks courses are Management, Leadership and Decision Sciences, Hannah Riley Bowles; International and Global Affairs, William C. Clark; Democracy, Politics and Institutions, Arthur Applebaum; International Development, Rohini Panda; Social and Urban Policy, Amitabh Chandra; Markets, Business and Government, Bridget Madrian. In addition to offerings in the Hks course listing, students are eligible to cross-register for many courses at the other graduate and professional schools at Harvard. Students are also able to sample beyond the Harvard and Hks course listing at the MIT Sloan School of Management, at the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy at Tufts University, and at the MIT School of Architecture and Planning. Rankings. Harvard-Kennedy School receives high rankings in the U.S. News & AMP World Report listing of top graduate schools of public affairs. In the 2015 rankings, Hks is ranked 3rd overall, and is ranked 1st in the subcategory of health policy, 2nd in public policy analysis and social policy. Kennedy's foreign affairs offerings are also ranked at or near the top of foreign policy magazines inside the Ivory Tower survey, which lists the world's top 20 international relations programs at the undergraduate, master's and Ph.D. D levels. In 2012, for example, the survey ranked HKS first overall for doctoral and undergraduate programs and third overall in the master's category. Student life. There is an active student life at HKS. Most of the activities are centered on interest-driven student caucuses, the student government, student-edited policy journals, such as the Kennedy School Review, a student newspaper, and a number of athletic groups. Elections for HKS student government are among the most lively of the activities at the school. The KSSG is led by a president, executive vice president, functional vice presidents and class representatives from all the graduate programs of HKS. The KSSG is also responsible for overseeing the interest caucuses at the school. Students can join the Harvard Graduate Student Government, colloquially known as the HGSG, and formerly known as the Harvard Graduate Council, or HGC, is the university-wide representative student government for the 12 graduate and professional schools of Harvard University. The HGSG is responsible for advocating student concerns to central administrators, including the president of Harvard University, provost, deans of students, and deans for the nearly 15,000 graduate and professional students across the 12 schools, organizing large university-wide initiatives and events, administering and providing funding for university-wide student groups, and representing the Harvard graduate student population to other universities and external organizations. The HGSG has become well known for creating and executing on advocacy initiatives and events focused on the One Harvard movement. The courtyard between the main Kennedy School buildings is a key attraction for students who gather there to work on their assignments, have lunch, or relax. During the warmer months, the school frequently sponsors beer and barbecue events which give students the opportunity to socialize. During the colder months, quorum calls are held in one of the indoor atriums to celebrate the end of each week of Hks Courses with friends. Centers. Harvard Kennedy School is home to 14 centers, several of which are located at HKS but university-wide. Ash Center for Democratic Governance and Innovation, Belfer Center for Science and International Affairs, Carr Center for Human Rights Policy, Center for International Development, Center for Public Leadership, Institute of Politics, Edmund J. Safra Foundation Center for Ethics, Shorenstein Center on Media, Politics and Public Policy, Mosava Rahmani Center for Business and Government, Rappaport Institute for Greater Boston, Taubman Center for State and Local Government, Malcolm Wiener Center for Social Policy, Joint Center for Housing Studies, Women and Public Policy Program. Notable faculty. Notable alumni. Government and politics heads of state: Lee Hsien Loong, Prime Minister of Singapore; Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, President of Liberia, Nobel Peace Prize laureate; Felipe Calderón Hinojosa, former President of Mexico; Sakirayan Elbagdorj, President of Mongolia; Miguel de la Madrid, former President of Mexico; Juan Manuel Santos, President of Colombia; Jamil Mahuad, former President of Ecuador; Eduardo Rodriguez, former President of Bolivia; Carlos Salinas de Gortari, former President of Mexico; José María Figueres, former President of Costa Rica, CEO of the World Economic Forum; Pierre Elliott Trudeau, a former Prime Minister of Canada; Abdiweli Muhammad Ali, a former Prime Minister of Somalia; Shering Toubgay, Prime Minister of Bhutan; Frederick Summe, former Prime Minister of Tanzania; Sir Donald Tsang, Hong Kong Chief Executive; others: Mohammed bin Ibrahim, 8th Governor of the Central Bank of Malaysia; Noy Renaud Sullivan, Police Commissioner of Gardasio Channel Islands National Police Service; Keith Hennessy, a former Director, White House National Economic Council; Takuo Tsuka, a member of the House of Representatives of Japan. Toshimitsu Motegi, Financial Services Minister of Japan. Yasuhisa Shiozaki, a former Chief Cabinet Secretary, Japan. Peter Rouse, White House Chief of Staff under President Barack Obama. Raphael Hui, a former Chief Secretary for Administration of Hong Kong. Bozidar Thelik, Vice President of Serbia, former Minister of Finance. Paul Volcker, a former Chairman of the U.S. Federal Reserve, Economic Advisor to President Barack Obama. Syafia, Economic Advisor in the Republic of Indonesia's Council of Presidential Advisors. David E. Cunliffe, Leader of the Opposition, Parliament of New Zealand. John Tsang, Financial Secretary of Hong Kong. Natalie Hareska, former Minister of Finance in Ukraine. Lim Hng, Minister for Trade and Industry of Singapore, member of the Cabinet of Singapore. Hector Gramajo, a former Defense Minister of Guatemala. Teo Chihin, Deputy Prime Minister, Coordinating Minister for National Security and Minister for Home Affairs of Singapore. Tharman Shanmugaratnam, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister for Finance and Minister for Manpower of Singapore. Adolfo Aguilar's Insa, a former Mexican National Security Advisor and Ambassador to the United Nations. Jamami, Chief Executive Director of People's Association, Singapore. Bob Anthony, Republican politician from the U.S. state of Oklahoma. Amy Ayalon, member, Israeli Knesset. Ed Balls, former British member of the Parliament and Secretary of State for Children, Schools and Families. Nisrain Bawawari, Minister of Municipalities and Public Works of Iraq. Doug Bereuter, a former U.S. Congressman, Nebraska. Charles A. Blanchard, General Counsel of the Army 1999 to 2001, General Counsel of the Air Force 2009 to 2013. J. Richard Blankenship, a former U.S. Ambassador to the Bahamas. André Boisclair, a former leader of Parti QUE Acute BE Acute COS, former Quebec Minister of Citizenship and Immigration. Nicholas Bowles, a former Director of Policy Exchange, now Member of Parliament. Amelia Bongkidan, Secretary of the Philippine Department of Budget and Management in the Philippines. Brendan F. Boyle, Member, U.S. House of Representatives, 13th District of Pennsylvania. David A. Bray, recipient of the Roger W. Jones Award for Executive Leadership for Lifelong Public Service. Piper Ann Wind Campbell, American diplomat, currently serves as the 9th U.S. Ambassador to Mongolia. Robert Castelli, Member, New York State Assembly, 89th District. Rajkumar Chellaraj, a former Assistant Secretary of State for Administration, United States Department of State. Frank Chakana, Member, African National Congress, South African Advisor to the President. Anish Chopra, U.S. Chief Technology Officer under President Barack Obama. Albert Chua, former permanent representative of Singapore to the United Nations. Henry Cisneros, a former U.S. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. Jacqueline Y. Collins, Democratic member of the Illinois Senate representing the 16th District since 2003. Jerry Connolly, member, U.S. House of Representatives, 11th District of Virginia. Joseph Curtatone, Mayor, Somerville, Massachusetts. Mark Daly, Irish Senator. Stephen Dolly, Irish Teachter Dala for the Wicklow constituency. Sean Donovan, U.S. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. Theodore L. Elliott, Jr., former U.S. Ambassador to Afghanistan. Ana Escobedo Cabral, former U.S. Treasurer. Roy Folkman, member, Israeli Knesset. Marilinda Garcia, member of the New Hampshire House of Representatives. Fernando Martin Garcia, Puerto Rican politician and former senator. Robert S. Gelbart, a former U.S. ambassador to Indonesia and Bolivia. Alan Grayson, Member, U.S. House of Representatives, 8th District of Florida. Catherine Harris, Member, U.S. House of Representatives, 13th District of Florida. Former Florida Secretary of State, Yoshimasa Hayashi, former Minister of Defense, former Minister of State for Economic and Fiscal Policy, Japan. Paul Haru, State Representative from Massachusetts. Brian Higgins, Member, U.S. House of Representatives, 27th District of New York. Stephen Horn, a former U.S. Congressman, California. Vuk Jeremiah, 2012 President of the United Nations General Assembly, former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Serbia. Shane Jones, Member, Parliament of New Zealand, and Chair of Finance Committee. Ban Ki-moon, United Nations Secretary General. Raymond W. Kelly, New York City Police Commissioner. Jim Langevin, Member, U.S. House of Representatives, 2nd District of Rhode Island. Andrew Lee, Member, Australian House of Representatives. Mark D. Levine, Member, New York City Council, 7th District. Stephen F. Lynch, Member, U.S. House of Representatives, 9th District of Massachusetts. Dan Maffei, Member, U.S. House of Representatives, 25th District of New York. Nabi El-Makarim, former Minister of the Environment of the Republic of Indonesia. Mark McClellan, a former Commissioner of the United States Food and Drug Administration. Jim Moody, a former U.S. Congressman, Wisconsin. Elias Madsuri, a former Mayor of Harare. George Munoz, a former CFO of the U.S. Department of Treasury, former President and CEO of OPIC. Charles A. Murphy, member of the Massachusetts House of Representatives and chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee. Andrew Natsios, former U.S. Special Envoy to Sudan and Administrator of U.S. Agency for International Development. Nafid Nenshi, Mayor of Calgary since 2010. Christine Nixon, Chief Commissioner of Victoria, Australia Police. Herbert S. Okun, a former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. Francis Pangilinan, Senator and the Majority Leader of the Senate of the Philippines. Marcus Peacock, a former Deputy Administrator, U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Yohanan Plesner, Member, Israeli Knesset. Larry Pressler, a former U.S. Senator from South Dakota. William Proxmire, a former U.S. Senator from Wisconsin. Jack Reed, U.S. Senator from Rhode Island. Angela Reyes, Secretary of Energy of the Philippines, a former Secretary of National Defense of the Philippines. Jesse Robredo, Secretary of Interior and Local Government of the Philippines, received the Quezon Service Cross. Joe Shestak, Member, U.S. House of Representatives, 7th District of Pennsylvania. Rob Simmons, a former U.S. Congressman, P. Connecticut. Barry Smitherman, member of the Texas Railroad Commission. Nancy Sutlick, Director of White House Council on Environmental Quality. William B. Taylor, Jr., U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine. Peter G. Torkeldsen, a former U.S. Congressman, Massachusetts, a former chair of Massachusetts Republican Party. Robert Torricelli, a former U.S. Senator from New Jersey. Chris Van Hollen, Member, U.S. House of Representatives, 8th District of Maryland. Kevin White, former Mayor of Boston. David Wilhelm, Campaign Manager, Clinton. Gore, 92, a former Chair, Democratic National Committee. Anthony A. Williams, former Mayor of Washington, D.C. Gita Wirjawan, Minister of Trade, a former head of the Investment Coordinating Board, Republic of Indonesia. Non-profit Aisha Asori, former CEO, Nigerian Women's Trust Fund. Lester R. Brown, founder and president of the Earth Policy Institute. Robert Kagan, co-founder, Project for a New American Century. Nancy Lehman, Executive Vice President, AARP; Michelle Rhee, founder of the New Teacher Project, Chancellor of the Washington, D.C. Public Schools System; Military John C. Acton, a retired United States Coast Guard Rear Admiral who serves as the Director of Operations Coordination for DHS; John R. Allen, Jr., retired United States Air Force Brigadier General and highly decorated command pilot; William J. Beggett, served as Commander, Pacific Air Forces, and Air Component Commander for the Commander, United States Pacific Command; Franklin J. Blaisdell, U.S. Air Force Major General; Sally Bryce O'Hara, 27th Vice Commandant of the United States Coast Guard; Michael E. Fortney, U.S. Air Force Brigadier General; Jeffrey Fowler, United States Navy Vice Admiral, Superintendent, United States Naval Academy; John C. Harvey, United States Navy Admiral, Commander, U.S. Fleet Forces Command; Robert C. Hinson, U.S. Air Force Lieutenant General; William E. Ingram, Jr., U.S. Army Lieutenant General and Director of the Army National Guard; Richard C. Johnston, U.S. Air Force Brigadier General; Andrew F. Krapinevich, Jr., United States Army Lt. Col., author of The Army in Vietnam; Rick Lennon, astronaut; Christopher Lauria, astronaut; Robert W. Parker, U.S. Air Force Major General; Timothy S. Sullivan, U.S. Coast Guard Rear Admiral; Guy C. Swan III, U.S. Army Major General, Commanding General of the Military District of Washington; Jack Weinstein, U.S. Air Force Major General; Academia William Alonzo, economist, a former director of Harvard Center for Population Studies; Lawrence S. Bakov, President of Tufts University; Steve Charnovitz, Associate Professor, George Washington University; Ronald A. Heifetz, co-founder, Center for Public Leadership at Harvard University; Stephen Horn, former president of California State University, Long Beach; Ira Jackson, Dean; Peter F. Drucker and Misato Shiito, Graduate School of Management at Claremont Graduate University; Mark Liller, Professor, Columbia University; Stephen Joel Trachtenberg, former president of George Washington University; Jonathan Zittrain, Professor, Harvard Law School, co-founder Berkman Center at Harvard; journalism Kamla Damore, television news presenter, BBC World News and Africa Business Report; Mark A. R. Kleiman, author; Caroline Glick, deputy managing editor of the Jerusalem Post; Damba Samoyo, economist and New York Times best-selling author; Bill O'Reilly, political commentator; Malik Siraj Akbar, editor-in-chief; The Balik Hal, exiled Pakistani journalist; Andrew Sullivan, journalist, The Atlantic Monthly; Business Klaus Schwab, founder and executive chairman, World Economic Forum; Faryou Sherzad, managing director, Goldman Sachs, a former U.S. Deputy National Security Advisor; Peter Sands, Group CEO, Standard Chartered; Daniel Mudd, former president and CEO of U.S. Fannie Mae; Noam Barden, CEO of Waze, acquired by Google for $1.1 billion in 2013; Rune Bjarke, CEO, DNB Asher; Gregory C. Carr, founder, Boston Technology; Leonard S. Coleman, Jr., former president of the National League; Deborah L. Lee, president and CEO, Black Entertainment Television; Hilda Ochoa Brillenberg, founder, president, CEO of Strategic Investment Group; Greg Rosenbaum, CEO, Empire Kosher Poultry, Inc. Arts Ashley Judd, actress, activist; Hill Harper, actor; Thorstein Graber, opera director; Damien Woetzel, a former principal dancer, New York City Ballet;